So cost plus is the idea that the problem with the cost of healthcare is that there's too much profit in it, right? And so if you just tell people, if you just tell the hospitals and the healthcare providers, well, you can only charge 1% more than you're paying for the product or service, then that'll make it cheaper because they can't profit as much, right? There's no way that they could game that. There's no way that I, as a doctor who is trying to figure out how to make sure I'm getting everyone paid and still put money in my pocket and pay off my student loans and everything else, there's no way that I figure that instead of buying this saline bag, IV bag for $1 and being able to make 10 cents off of it, that instead I could buy this saline bag for $300 and make $30 profit off of it and know that I can charge that much because I'm not charging the patient directly most of the time. I'm charging a multi-billion-dollar insurance pool that's required by law to pay it. There's no way I would do that, right? There's no way that would happen.
When you say it that way, it sounds perfectly rational.
This cost plus is probably, I would say, possibly the single biggest contributor to the spiraling out of control cost of especially hospital services. It is a direct result of all of the providers going, oh yeah, we don't want you to make too much profit on our $700, IV catheter or whatever. Like, I mean, the things they're charging are as a direct, it's like what government is under cost plus. Government, they're contractors, they can only charge a certain percent more than they cost. And that's how you end up with a $23,000 hammer. So they took that amazing economic prospect policy and moved it to the healthcare sector. And wonder of wonder, now hospital services cost a fortune.
You also mentioned, just a minute on this, you mentioned the CON laws, the Certificate of Need laws,
God.
which is literally constricting the supply of, the people on our podcast have heard us talk about this a lot. My wife spent a year trying to get HCA to get permission from the government to be able to build a new building. They call it freestanding ED. They spent a year in court because their competition was challenging their permit in court. They paid her and about 100 other people for a year to try and get this permit. By the time they were going to start the building, they were already minus $10-20 million on it, and they weren't even allowed to build it at the end of that. So that price went into everything else that they charge for at the hospital. They wanted to add a new MRI machine a few years ago before Tennessee changed this. They allow you to do it now. Wanted to add a new MRI. No, they can't do that because this hospital over here has an MRI. And so you can't have another MRI machine. We don't need this other MRI. Why can't they just add another freaking MRI machine?
Yeah, well, because the cronies have won, right? Imagine if every time a new grocery store opened, Walmart took them to court and said, no, we already got a store here. You're good. And they could charge, they could spend hundreds of millions of dollars in court stopping these other competitors from coming in. And so now the only place you can go for food is Walmart. You think you get a lot of really good values? Do you think you'd still save money and live better at Walmart? No, of course not. That's what they've done in healthcare in almost every state. And this is, I mean, gosh, you really want to get into some stupid wonkiness. This is based on the completely disproven and debunked theory that the reason we need Certificate of Need laws, that the reason that healthcare costs are so high, well, it's because they're spending so much on new stuff. And when you increase the supply, that money that's being spent on increasing that supply, that's got to be bought somewhere. So that's definitely someone's got to pay that. That's definitely going to make prices go up. There's no way that increasing supply leads to prices going down. That's foolish. This is this is a perfect example of why central planning sucks. Had the market tested this out and it failed completely, they would have immediately changed gears because it would be hurting their bottom lines. But because it's the government doing it, you've got to get politicians to admit that they were wrong, which means you basically got to wait for all of them to die and a new generation of politicians to come in and go, all right, yeah, I guess that wasn't a good idea. And then maybe you might get it passed because then is there the political will to do it? Is there enough of a lobby group that's willing to fight to do it? Do you have a bunch of cronies paying you millions of dollars to your coffers to make sure it never goes away because they're making billions off of it and you're the one paying for all of that? Like you said, all of that hospital and healthcare lobby money that's going into restricting healthcare through these types of laws, you're paying for that when you get healthcare. You are paying for lobbying efforts to restrict supply to the healthcare services that you need, which inherently also makes the price go up. You're paying to make the price go up.